Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, My Kind of Art with me, Ivan Florentino. And for today's video, one of my most popular videos that I have that I used using ink pens, and this drawing is that of Pennywise, a dancing clown. You can go ahead and see it right here. So yeah, this one I created a few years ago, and this was during when the 2017 movie came out and also when the sequel was released. But yeah, this one I've been wanting to go ahead and digitally paint it in my Procreate program on my iPad Pro with my Apple Pencil. So yeah, I'm going to show you a tutorial video on how I go ahead and transfer this onto my iPad Pro, and yeah, get to it. And if you're brand new to my channel, consider hitting the like button, ringing the bell, and leaving a comment. So to start off, I made this original drawing with Faber-Castell and Micron ink pens along with Prisma markers using black and a few different warm and cool grays. Now this one I actually decided to use those fine tip Micron pens because I wanted to have that type of sketchy look. That is part of what my style is that I like to do, almost like a cross-hatching, stippling style, lines next to each other. And the reference photo that I used was Pennywise from 2017 and 2018 with the huge mouth open with the crazy looking teeth coming out. And that was actually one of the hardest things to do, was the detailed teeth. It wasn't actually difficult, it was just very time consuming. So after laying down a very quick pencil sketch, just to make sure that I laid down the proportions just right with the weird looking angled eyes that were kind of looking kind of sideways, almost cross-eyed, and using a number 2 pencil, I started with my Micron ink pens and yeah, almost just outlining everything, making sure things that are going to be colored in black, they're all very noticeable, like the classic red paint that goes all the way from his mouth to the top of his eyes, around his pupils, the nose, but very specifically the mouth area. This is where I do want to know where the solid shadows are going to go, and starting off with a simple quick outline here and there to know where all the shadows are, it gives you a basic idea of where you're going to start to add in those medium tones. And then with a very thin ink pen, I started doing those lines that I told you about, those hatching lines, because that's the style that I wanted to go to. I made sure that Pennywise's solid white part of his face, where it's all painted, I purposely left pure white because we do want that to stand out, and that's where a lot of the light is coming from. So if you're going to notice that towards the left and middle side of his face is where all the shadows are. And like I said earlier, the teeth took a long time because that's where I wanted to make sure the shadows were in the right area. And going slowly, I kind of got an idea where the things inside his mouth were going to be completely solid black, and areas were going to be the middle tones. And because some of the teeth are kind of coming at you, they're different angled, they're different proportions, different sizes. That one, I wanted to make sure I got those just right. Now in this section, to fill out all of those dark shadows in between his mouth, the ears, and underneath his chin where all of those ruffles are, this is where we use the Prisma markers, and I'm using a dark black. You can use any brand of markers, but this one I just happen to have a collection of Prisma markers, and this one I'm adding this every single area that has pure black, a solid shape, and this made it super easy to cover all of those areas because you can't really see the detail when I'm adding that into the hair, and that's why you have to pay attention to your reference photo. And this is slowly coming together. As soon as we know where those shadows are, we can start moving into the middle tones. And what I mean by middle tones or mid-tones is that once we have the darkness that we need in the black, we can start adding and using our ink pens to do all of those hatching lines and start creating those midtones by having those lines close together. The more you overlap those lines, the more it creates darkness, and the less it creates, it'll be more of the lighter tones. Now, not only are we using our Micron ink pens to add some of those middle tones, we are using different gray markers. Now this you can definitely tell is going to be adding that great balance between light and dark. If I'm using at least 2 or 3 different types of grays, I'm using a charcoal gray closer towards black, and then some warm grays as well. And this is going to really help out and make things look like it has some form, some 3D, some nice transitions to make things look rounded and a lot more lifelike, especially when it's something that's a black and white drawing. Now, this is the digital coloring portion of Pennywise using Procreate. I took a picture of my original drawing, I transferred it into the program, and for the most part in Photoshop, if I remember, I completely erased a lot of the white space, the background that we didn't really need, but we'll be cleaning that up later on. And this one, I made sure to do it in layers. So on top of my drawing, I created a new layer and I made it into a multiply layer, which means now that I'm coloring it, as I chose this red color, it's gonna sit and blend directly on top of my original drawing and preserve all of those marks so that it looks like it was originally drawn that way or colored that way, having that look of an original traditional drawing, but makes it easy and very convenient by coloring in digitally, and it makes it a lot easier for me to erase and experiment with different types of values in the color range that Procreate has. What makes it a lot easier for me to cover a lot of range in the drawing is using an airbrush, and this one I made it into a medium size, and I was able to color in all of Pennywise's red color from his nose, his entirety of his mouth, and then I switched over to a different orange to color in that hair that he has. And for the most part, it actually looks decent so far to lay down a solid color first before we start going into the details of various different oranges and reds as well. So the next step, what I did was color in his eyes, and also I started erasing with a hairbrush tool. So there's an actual hair texture brush that I can set into the eraser part and start deleting, and it makes it very clean and it makes it look like it has hair strands, and it erases into that so that it makes it look like it has some variation in hair texture. In this section, I am completely cutting out everything that we don't need, all of the white space, by just tracing everything around him and deleting the white background. We do not need any of that. And this makes it easier for us to use the alpha lock later on. That feature keeps us from coloring out of the boundaries of our drawing. And some of the last few things that I did, besides making sure that the hair strands looked a little bit more organic, I started using a pencil brush and added some hair strands back in by just choosing an orange and painting a few hair strands here and there to make it look a little bit more realistic and a lot cleaner instead of this silhouette look. And I started also adding some shadows in the entire part of the skin. I even used a zombie skin brush just to kind of give that cracked paint look that Pennywise does have. And I even added some black and red background just to kind of resemble that part of the scene of the movie where everything was really dark and lights were kind of coming in from all directions. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below of this digital painting, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.